Hi, it's Ian from the Postal Hub Podcast.
And Marek from Last Mile Experts.
And we are the Last Mile Prophets. This is the last word on the last mile. Marek, peak is upon us and worker retention has become pretty important, especially in these unprecedented times and all of that sort of stuff. I mean, worker retention was always an issue, shall we say, in the courier sector, and it's been driven home just how important it is to reduce worker churn. Marek, we're going to share some really interesting data and facts and figures in a moment, but just go back in time, Marek, to when you used to manage big networks of drivers. What were some of the key challenges for you when it came to managing those networks of drivers?
I think the key challenge is to keep the guys and girls engaged, to make them feel part of the organization. And one of the big challenges you face in today's last mile is that quite often these guys and girls are co-workers. So they're not really your direct employees. So how do you do that without coming a cropper in terms of reclassification legislation? So that's one of the issues that wasn't necessarily so big when I was still working operationally. It's a big one now. But the thing that was a big issue when I was still out there in the field was the fact that so many organizations really don't bother about it. And I find it incredible that, people could accept churn rates of 40, 50% even in drivers, because you know this, Ian, it's not an easy job.
It's not an easy job. Getting in and out of a van 100 times a day, 200 times a day, plus some drivers are telling us at the moment they're having to do 200 drops just for parcels a day. That's a lot. We've got some figures here. One report estimates that only 20% of Uber drivers remain with the platform for over a year. And acquiring a new driver costs in the hundreds of euros. So that's a lot.
And actually, Ian, those figures don't show one really important thing, because we did a bit of research on this for one of our clients. A new driver not only has costs relating to onboarding him, but he will be less efficient during the first 3 months. So if you take that into account, the cost is probably an awful lot more.
I always wonder about these massive hiring surges during the Christmas peak. If they're going to be out on the road, how effective will they really be? I know we've heard about the UPS or FedEx in the USA. They get the extra person to just sit alongside an experienced driver. So there'd be an extra pair of hands and set of legs when it comes to running back and forth and dropping the parcels. But then the other question around here, this is when you want to recruit new drivers, you might screen out a number of drivers as well. So just because you get 100 applications doesn't mean you got 100 new drivers on your hands, yeah?
Absolutely. It's not an easy thing. And one of the things that I remember, I won't give you an accurate statistic, but of the onboarded drivers we had at Amazon, there was a significant group that even during or before the end of the training period, they resigned or they just didn't show up. So I think that this is a big issue. The subject came from my pals at Collective Benefits, and it's great that Kimberly and Rachael are actually interested in this and doing something about it. And I think it's a space that isn't really looked at enough. And I reckon that if carriers, posts, and large e-commerce players with their own last mile capability would take more of a look into this, not only would they have happier people delivering their parcels, they'd have happier customers, because the customer experience from a happy, smiling courier is a lot better. So I think it's worth looking at.
Well, and you've just mentioned something that I was about to touch on as well, which was the fact that the delivery driver is the public face of the delivery company or the post, as it may be. And as somebody called Marek Różycki says all the time, it's where the e-commerce retailer touches the customer. So that the delivery experience is, in effect, dependent upon the worker experience. Happy worker, they're going to be smiling, they're going to give you better service than a grumpy pants. Right?
Absolutely. So, and it shocks me, Ian, that so few organizations really walk the talk on this one. Because if you talk to any postal operator, of course, the first thing they'll say is, yes, our people, our posties, they're the most important people in the world. But if you really deep dive, of course, there are going to be some posts that really do care. It's more your area. What's your feeling?
Well, you've got posts that are dealing with blended workforces. So some are employees, some are contractors. That sort of influences the way they manage the workforce, sort of as you alluded to earlier. And you've got the issue of pay is crucial. So if the driver doesn't feel they're being paid properly, that it it's undeniable that will have an influence on things. Safety is a big thing now as well. If the drivers don't think that their employer or their parent company, in the case of contractors, really cares about their safety, is not helping them with things like whether it's sanitizer or gloves or masks or indications on how to interact with the public, all those sorts of protections, then that's going to influence on retention, because there's an element of this war for talent, which is something we've been talking about in the sector for years. And I want to throw something else in here. I know I've just talked about posts, but when you look at the gig economy and the likes of, well, I'm not going to name names, we all know who we're talking about here, but safety is crucial. And just in the last few days in Australia, it's become an even hotter issue because a number of drivers, delivery people, some are on bikes, for gig economy platforms have died in the course of doing their work. So safety is crucial now, and there is an increasing spotlight on it in Australia, and the governments are now interested in it. So if it's as simple as this. If you're a delivery company, you have to either look after driver safety, whether you've got employees or contractors, whether it's a gig economy model or a traditional model, don't care. You've got to look after the safety of your delivery people, or else the government or the regulator will take an interest, and that will be much more painful for you.
Absolutely. And I think safety and caring in general are two sort of peas in a pod, as it were, because if these guys are happy and comfortable and can see you care, it's less likely anyway that they're going to be complaints to the regulators. You're going to have happy customers. So it's a real virtuous circle. And for me, it's incredible that so few organizations really, really do something here. There are some companies that you can see they really try to go the extra mile. But honestly, based on our own experience at Last Mile Experts, it's not so many.
It's frustrating too, because what's the key part of your business? It's those people who are out there delivering for you. So whether you're a private operator or a post, they're your key people. And if you don't have drivers, you have no business. Right? If you're a gig economy delivery platform, you have no drivers, you have no business. Right? You can talk about your algorithms and your data and all of that, but if you have no drivers, you have no business. So...
Ian, absolutely. I mean, I think one big e-commerce player we can both think about, beginning with an A, is great in terms of how it looks after its customers. But I think the only thing they're waiting for is the moment you have some kind of drone or Android device that can physically replace the driver, because it's in my opinion, it's their weak spot. It's the thing that they don't look after enough.
We have covered that before when one of their high-profile executives handed in his notice in protest at the way that Amazon was dealing with its employees. Now, we've been talking about this in a bit of a negative way. We've got about 30 seconds left. I want to turn this into a positive, though. If a company is treating its delivery people well and doesn't have to rely on gimmicks to show that it's treating its people well, what does that mean for the delivery company in terms of commercial opportunities or growth or positive headlines or all those sorts of things, Mark?
Well, actually, I think you just highlighted it, the positive headlines, because people talk about it. When they're happy, people will talk about it. When they have less staff churn, they'll have more productivity, better quality of service. So, it's all these things. What for me is amazing is that so many organizations just pay lip service to this. Of course, they'll all say, yeah, we care about our people are most important and so on. But how many walk the talk?
It's very easy to say our people are important, our people are crucial to us, but unless you actually show up where the rubber literally hits the road, it's empty talk. Marek, we could go on about this for hours and hours, but we've run out of time. Perhaps everybody join in the conversation below. Tell us what you think. Tell us about what you think is best practice. Who are the companies who are doing it well? We'd love to hear about it so we can share some positive stories on it instead of talking about some of the less great things that happen in the delivery world.
Particularly Kimberly and Rachael, drop your own comments below this post. And thank you, Ian. Thank you, everyone.
Catch you next time on The Last Mile Profits.